you've been feeling the call to write a book, it is no accident. Your book is needed in the world, so let's make it happen. I'm Nicola Humber, and this is the Unbound Writers Club. Hello and welcome to the Unbound Writers Club. Today I am joined by Lindsey Elms. Lindsey is author of the newly released Guided by Love, a first aid kit for your broken heart. In this book, she shares her personal journey from her husband declaring that he was leaving her on their 20th wedding anniversary, that world-changing moment that left her feeling discarded, broken, alone, like struggling to understand. And in Guided by Love, Lindsey invites you on an intimate journey from despair to healing. It's such a beautiful book. I was so delighted that we got to work with Lindsey to help birth this book into the world. She actually first published with us as part of a collaborative book, Tales from the Unbound Path, when she wrote about part of her story, and then that ended up blossoming into Guided by Love. She talks more about that during this conversation. So I am beyond delighted to introduce Lindsey to you to talk about Guided by Love and also a little bit about what's next. So yeah, let's do that right now. So, Lindsey, welcome to the Unbound Writers Club.
Thank you, Nicola. Thank you so much for having me. I'm thrilled to be here.
Oh, me too. Me too. It kind of feels like it's been a bit of a long time coming. I mean, you've been part of the Unbound Press for a while. You had a chapter in one of our amazing collaborative books, and we've been connected for quite a while. And I'm just so delighted now that I know this is audio only, so people can't see this, but I've got a copy of your beautiful book, Guided by Love, in my hands. And I'm, like I say, so grateful that you and this book are now part of the Unbound Press family. And I want to begin this conversation by asking the same question I always ask. And interested to see like just what wants to come through for you, but what makes you an unbound writer?
Okay, that's such a beautiful question. And I feel like I've been unraveling to become unbound for several years now. And I think for me, it's around being liberated from old beliefs
Hmm.
and standing in my power, standing in my truth, and self-love being a huge part. So for me, I had a belief that expressing my feelings openly wasn't safe, even shameful, Nicola. And that was also linked to the belief that asking for what you need and what you want is somehow selfish, even scary. And I thought that sharing personal information would make me look weak or needy, or that I would be judged for it. And actually, expressing through writing and allowing myself to really be authentic in my words is incredibly powerful and has been wonderfully healing for me. And most recently, I've noticed that, my feelings and sensitivities were often dismissed and unfortunately even ridiculed at times. And I didn't have a reason to kind of back me up until recently. And then I was diagnosed with autism,
Mm.
and everything just made total sense. Whilst I didn't know that I was autistic until I'd finished writing the book, looking back over some of the things that I wrote, it was quite clear to me. And if you know what to look for, you can see some of the ways that it kind of threads in. So yeah, being an unbound writer for me is standing in my truth, speaking from the heart, and writing authentically, not worrying about whether it will be judged, and trusting that it will be read by the people that it will touch.
Beautiful, beautiful. And thank you so much for sharing all of that, Lindsey, because I know you're 100% not alone in those kind of fears and doubts that we can have about, writing from the heart. It's a beautiful thing to do. And also, it's a really courageous thing to do because, we can have all of these fears and doubts about what people might think of us. So, the fact that you've done it is really quite something, and it offers a lot of inspiration to others as well, and obviously to your readers. And so interesting that you've received that diagnosis after the completion of writing the book. Again, I feel like that's going to resonate with a lot of the people listening to this who may or may not have been diagnosed with things like ADHD or autism, where it's like that light bulb moment of oh, it all makes sense. Like this
Yeah.
this helps me to make sense of who I am and how I interact in the world. So thank you so much. How did you get started with writing this book, Guided by Love? Why did you feel the call, and how did you actually start the process?
Okay, so I didn't intentionally write, I didn't intentionally start off to write a book. I've always really loved journaling. I've always loved expressing myself. Even when I was little, if I wanted to tell my mum something and I couldn't quite find the words like to speak, I would write a little note.
I love that.
And I sometimes I write my little love notes to my kids. So expressing myself in the written form has always been something that I've enjoyed. And when my marriage ended, I poured my feelings, my thoughts, my hopes, my fears onto the page. And some of it had quite a quite a beautiful kind of poetic quality to it.
Mm,
And I was part of this kind of story sprint. It was like 30 days of story writing. And the lady would give us a question, and then we would kind of answer it through the day. And so we would have a bank of possible blogs or things to share. And during that time, a friend of mine, Mariah, sent me your link about the collaborative book,
mm,
and my heart just leaped. I was like, oh, this is just, how exciting would this be to be part of a collaborative book? And I was like, oh, well, let's see what I've got and see if I could put something together. So I sat down to write, and literally 1,500 words just flew out of me. And
amazing.
I was like, wow, this is actually really quite nice. I like some of the things that I've written here. So I sent it off, and you kindly accepted it and published it as part of the book. And then I shared it with another friend who was like, Lindsey, wow, this would be a wonderful kind of preface to a book. And I
Mm,
was like, really? She was like, yeah. And that seed that got planted kind of grew over a few weeks and a few months. And so I started looking through my journals. I started thinking about what stories I would like to share, what might be inspirational for women, what tools that I was using to self-soothe that would be supportive to people going through something similar to me. And the book just kind of put itself together. It kind of it birthed through me. And once I kind of understood that I did have things to share that may be supportive to other people, it just felt like a very natural thing to want to share, to put
mm,
it together and to get it out into the world.
yeah. So was a lot of it written already? Lindsay? I think people are interested in the process. Would you say, like, from the pieces in your journal or journals, was a lot of the book already there, or did you have to do quite a lot of new writing for the book?
I would probably say like half and half.
Mm,
I did have the stories were there for sure. The ideas were there. So it was just a case of writing them out. There was some research involved. There was some writing that needed to be done. But yeah, it just all came together really nicely. And it wasn't like I had a whole plan
mm.
at the start. I just had bits and bobs that kind of, or even paragraphs that were a starting point that I could then flesh out and develop. So so yeah, I would say, and I think you do too. You don't necessarily have to have this very structured plan. Ideas do come. The book does work through you to get out what it wants to say as well.
Completely, completely. They do.
It's magical. It is magical.
It really is. And I love the way, like what you said there, like sometimes there was a paragraph, like maybe from your journal that you could go and go, okay, I'm going to take this and almost use it as a prompt for yourself to expound on. Because sometimes I
Yeah.
think people think, oh, well, no, that's my journal. So that's separate from the writing I'm doing for my book. But there can be so much that we've done in our own personal writing practice that can then either directly be used for our book or, like you say, inspire other sections of the book. So I love the way you did that.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. And I think it's because it was from the heart.
Mm.
When I was writing my journals, it wasn't as if I was expecting anyone to look at them. It was true unbound writing, Nicola.
Yeah. Little did you know. But that's great, isn't it? Because then you give yourself permission to like really be free with what you want to express. So I love that that was the case. And I'm curious, because of that, because I mean, your book is so personal and you're talking about, heartbreak, like this journey that you've been on, like the book, like you say, like the tagline of it is a first aid kit for your broken heart, because that's the journey that you've been on. And we did talk at the beginning about, some of the fears and doubts that came up for you. But, were there any other specific fears or doubts that came up because the book is so personal?
Yeah, absolutely. I had a fear of sharing and being vulnerable because I had to consider the kids as well. That was
Mm,
important because I do mention the kids. So we had a family meeting about that, and I made sure that they were totally happy with being mentioned and, some of the stories. So that was a fear of kind of their privacy
mm,
being that it was protected. And I did have a fear. It seems irrational now, but that's what fears are all about, aren't they? But I did have a fear that people would judge me for almost sharing too personal of a story. Like, would they really be interested in
mm.
in my story and my breakup? Because, unfortunately, it happens all of the time. However, what I did realize was that in being vulnerable, in sharing the hardest time of my life, it was not only kind of cathartic for me, but I knew that because it was so genuine, that it couldn't help but touch other people if they pick the book up.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think those are the experiences and stories that are most important to share, the ones that are that do feel vulnerable, that are very personal to us. And you know, when we know that lots and lots of other people are having similar experiences, that's why it's powerful to share yours, because you know your story, your book is going to be a support to so many other people who are going through something similar. And I mean, I wonder how you feel now that the book is out in the world.
I'm super excited and super proud. She's I feel like she's a she. She's
Me too.
definitely a she. Um she's warm and compassionate, and she's got so many things in there that are me,
Mm,
as well as things that can be useful to others. I absolutely adore that she's in colour. I've got some beautiful illustrations in there that were drawn by a few different people, but particularly Linda, who just brought it to life for me. I'm just so thrilled. And we kind of intuitively put it in colour, which was a surprise for me. But it adds such warmth and softness, which is what I wanted the book to convey. Because if you think about the title, a first aid kit for your broken heart, it's kind of got connotations of being maybe a bit sad, but actually it's a very hopeful book.
yeah.
It's not about sadness, it's about self-soothing, it's about love, it's about how to rise from the ashes, if you
Mm,
like. So although there are a few stories in there that may be emotive, that kind of get my point across, essentially it's a self-love project.
absolutely. Absolutely. A very hopeful book. And I mean, absolutely stunning. We were just talking about like the design and the amazing Linda Mangoro, who's one of our designers at the Unbound Pratt. I mean, she does just do a brilliant job. She's just designed my next book as well, and I'm like, oh, it's just so gorgeous. Um, but yeah, like this book, Guided by Love, like just looking at her on my desk now. It's just so stunning, the colours. So yeah, very, very special book. For those who are listening, Lindsay, who are maybe at the beginning of their book writing journey or thinking about writing a book, is there one particular piece of advice that you would give to someone who's just starting out?
Ooh, does it have to just be one?
No, it doesn't, because we're unbound.
Well, the first thing I would say is go for it,
Mm,
do it. It'll stretch you and it will surprise and delight you in all kinds of different ways. It's definitely 100% worth the journey of doing it. And secondly, I would just say right from your heart. Express yourself from your heart and see where it takes you.
beautiful, beautiful. I love that. And what's next for you, Lindsay? What's bubbling? I mean, obviously, we want to like honor and celebrate, guided by love. Like, there's no rush to anything else, but I'm just curious to know if there's anything else.
Well, yes, since I love the process of writing a book so much, and because being diagnosed with autism at the age of 46, that happened partly as a catalyst to the end of my marriage, because I don't think I would have ever really realized it, unless I'd had this big shift in my life. I really want to write about autism for late diagnosed women in particular, and share some of my journey and some of the things that have been really, really helpful to me. I've been told that having a diagnosis like that, you can either kind of go two ways. It can either spiral you into some dark places, or it can uplift you to new heights of self-awareness.
Mm.
And luckily, because I have always felt guided by love and I've always had a positive attitude, I want to kind of write another hopeful book and another book that would be useful to women or men in my situation, and just to kind of give them the heads up on some of the things that I've learned and that I found helpful. So book number two is bubbling.
It's percolating. It's there. I'm really, really excited about that as well. It feels like it's very much needed, Lindsey. So thank you for kind of catching that idea and following it. And really look forward to seeing what unfolds on the journey. And for those who are listening who want to connect with you, they want to like stay in touch with what you're doing. Obviously, we're guided by love and the new book as well. What's the best way for people to connect with you?
So I have a website, lindsayelms.com. I'm on Facebook too. And yeah, I love connecting with people. I love people asking me questions because it it ignites something in me that allows me to share. So yes, very happy to connect with people. Thank you.
Fantastic. Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. We'll make sure that the links are in the show notes so people can find you easily. Thank you so much for joining me today, Lindsey. It's been great to have you in the Unbound Writers Club. And like I said, very excited for the onward journey as well.
Thank you so much, Nicola. It's been a pleasure.